Chipmunks? Welcome to the AMP Cycling Ride Review Series. I'm your host, Angry Chipmunk, and today we're in Italy taking on a hilly route into Norcia. This route is available on Rouvy, so let's get right to it. This is a moderate length route at just under 35 kilometers long, but with a massive 1,233 meters of elevation gain. The whole route averages just 4% and will max out at 14%. This isn't a mountain pass as such, but we are in the Monte Sibillini, so we will be seeing plenty of elevation gain and tough climbing. There's only one Strava segment for this route, both in Strava and on Rouvy, but there are two main climbs. Annoyingly, you are in positive gradient from pretty much the start of the route, but there is no segment for it. The only segment is San Pellegrino. It's at the 7-kilometer mark, is 13.8 kilometers long with 700 meters of elevation gain and averages 5.1%. The vast majority of this climb is very similar to the start of the route, so you don't really need to change anything about how you've been riding up to that point. There are more extended sections of orange gradient where you will see around 6 to 8%, but it's frequently broken up with sections of about 4 to 5%. The climb is pretty long, and you won't be seeing the difficult part until the last 2 kilometers of it. The last 2 kilometers see the average up to 6.7%. Immediately, the gradients get pretty tough at 11 to 12%. It backs off after a couple of hundred meters where you'll see a lot of 7 to 9% for about 1 kilometer. There's a couple of light yellow sections in there as well. But by the last 200 meters, it is back to double digits to the summit. This last 200 meters is where you'll see that peak gradients. There's a really nice downhill and flat section until the final climb. It's a really great place to push hard or recover from the climb and take in the view. The last climb is at the 29.5 kilometer mark. It's just under 5 kilometers long with 238 meters of elevation gain. The gradient math tells us this section averages about 5%. In reality, you are climbing for quite some while before you get to it, but those gradients are about 1%, so it's hardly more than flat. Like with San Pellegrino, you'll be seeing a lot of 4 to 6% for most of this climb. There are a couple of sections where it backs off, but it's not until the last 1 kilometer where it gets pretty tough. You'll see mostly 8 to 10% for that final kilometer. The summit is the finish of the route. For this ride, you'll be wanting a decent warm-up and a very good cool-down. The start of the route isn't very steep, but it's still enough to want at least 10 minutes, and the end of the route is that final difficult 1 kilometer, so you'll want at least another 10 minutes here, and likely more. And as always, I recommend pre-fueling your rides and including plenty of protein. This is a tricky route as you are actually on a positive gradient from the start, but it's not actually all that steep. If you can't pre-fuel, have 15 grams while you're warming up so that it can catch that climb. The climb isn't so hard that you'll struggle to fuel while riding it, but stick to your faster acting carbs while on it. When you get to the downhill, grab another 15 to 20 grams and that should see you good to the end of the route. And definitely follow this one up with a protein of some sort and a magnesium supplement. The view here is spectacular as always. There's a mountain view in almost every shot of this ride. They aren't your traditional snowy peaks, but somehow that makes them more interesting to look at. Maybe it's because we think mountains should always be snow-capped. I'm not sure, but I enjoyed the more mellow-looking older mountains. There's nothing in the way of city views here, which is always a big plus in my books. The only thing that made this one nicer to ride on a trainer versus real life is that it looks very windy in the video, and some of that open flat would have been no fun to fight against. This is one of those routes that I did shortly after a shoulder surgery, so my time is a bit slower than when I was fully healthy. It took me just over 2 hours to complete on 100% difficulty emulation. If you know you're quite a bit faster than me in general, you can cut quite a bit of time off that number. Or if you're generally about the same, I'd still say you could still minus about 20 minutes or so. I'd still budget anywhere from 2 to 2.5 hours for it, as you'll be wanting a good warm-up and cool down. There is that nice valley road in the middle, so it's also a suitable route to split into 2 parts. Overall, this is a fantastic route that I would definitely recommend for the climbing enthusiast. It's not a big, well-known mountain pass, but that doesn't mean it's any less challenging. You've still got a heap of elevation gain packed into a relatively short route. Sometimes it's nice to do the lesser known routes just to see some more of that beautiful landscape that exists. For this route, I give a 5 out of 5. I really enjoyed this one. It's all out in the countryside, so none of the stop-start video you get with a more city-centric route. It really enhances the immersive feel. For the climbs, 3.5 out of 5 and 3 out of 5. These aren't the most difficult climbs out there, but the first one is still pretty long. Both are a classic Italian climb, where the last section is the hardest bit. Neither are so steep that you can't just spit back and spin them though. For the view, 5 out of 5. Mountains, country skies, bright blue sky, all of my favorite elements. And overall, 5 out of 5. Definitely put this one in your ride queue. Ride by ride, the Chipmunk Army can make these lesser known routes popular so more riders will get to see them and give them a crack. Well, that's it for this review, so thanks for watching, Chipmunks. Please let me know what you think of the Norcia route in Umbria when you complete it. I'll leave you to finish the rest of the ride, and I'll see you next week for another review. Until then, ride on, Chipmunks, ride on.